Ọlọ́run bá lè tẹ̀rí ọ̀tá mi bá. Mo láwọn àrọ̀ kan tí mo fẹ́ dá. Ọlọ́run bá lè gbọ́ ọwọ́ mi sókè à. Mi láwọn àrà kan tí mo fẹ́ dá. Ẹ má bá mi bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹ má bá mi bẹ́ẹ̀. Oh, aunty, sister, brother. Ẹ má bá mi bàlá ṣe jù kò jẹ́ kí èjì jẹun ayọ̀ mẹ́rin. Ẹ má bá mi bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹ má bá mi fojú méjì bó ṣe kárí yàn. Ẹ má bá mi bàlá ṣe jù kò jẹ́ àrèjù jẹun ayọ̀ wá. Ẹ bá wa bẹ àwọn aláṣejù orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà ká má jẹ́ ká kú sóko wa jẹ. Wa náà fẹ́ padà wálé. Bí ìtẹ́ ṣe kì í dáná. Wàhálà ìlú òkèèrè ò dẹrùn ẹ béèrè káàkiri ẹni bàbá rò kọ́ rí púrọ́ kan. Nígbà téèyàn kò sí láìfù ìwé ìbò ọlọ́ọ̀bá mi. Wọ́n máa ń yà mí lẹ́nu lẹ́ẹ̀mí tẹ́lòmíì bá talé tanà tó talé dilé dàgbọ̀n tó ta gbogbo nǹkan. Ẹlòmíì gan nígbà tó bá dé ìlú òyìnbó yẹn tán bíi tiwa ẹ̀ bá lọ bí mélòó kan á wá sùn ojú àwa wálẹ̀. Oríṣiríṣi nǹkan ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ tí ò tiẹ̀ dáa. Àwọn kan lọ síbi iṣẹ́ pẹ̀lú gbígbọ́ pé wọ́n collapse. Ló ga ọ. Ọ̀yà ń try colleagues mi níbi iṣẹ́ lẹ́ẹ̀kan pariwo burúkú ọmọ Ghana. Gbogbo bó ṣe ń ṣe fáwọn èèyàn tó wọ́n tó ń fi bí jù dẹ̀dẹ̀ nù. Ó sì wà ń bẹ̀rẹ̀ yẹn. Àwọn èèyàn fi lè pé wá ti wá lóyún ló báyìí. Àjàjà àwọn tó bá wà l'Amẹ́ríkà. Ó mọ̀ rúgbó lọ́wọ́ àwọn èèyàn tẹ̀. Sẹ́ndì owó sílé. Nǹkan tó yẹ ká máa tà ní 10 naira. Àsọ̀kan wá ní 50 naira. Ṣèbí ètò ìsìta wọ́n gba 50 naira lọ́wọ́ wọn ṣe. Àwọn kan wá sẹ́ndì owó yẹn sí wọn. A tún wá lọ máa fowó yẹn fún ògùn tí ẹni yẹn. Ẹni yẹn ò bá wá ní Kristi lolúwa. A jẹ́ pé ibi táyé ẹ̀ ti máa jò dànù nìyẹn. Bẹ́ẹ̀ tó fagiri gbómi kaná. Ayé tuntun. Ayùwọ̀ náà gbẹ́kẹ̀lé. Ṣé kì í ṣèkúté ilé? Abùnijẹ tó fàtẹ́bù sí. Ẹni tó máa gbójúlé tó máa gbọ́kànlé o. Ìyàwó a máa kọ́kọ́. Ọkọ a sì máa ṣe púpà ìyàwó ẹ̀ láyé tá a wà yìí. Ìjìnlẹ̀ ẹni tí ń bẹ ń lu òyìnbó kì í ṣe tó ògùn ló ń sọ ọ́ torí nǹkan tó wá lọ́kàn ni wípé ó yóò gbìnlé. Ìyàwó ní ọkọ ò máa ṣe náà. Gbogbo alákùkù rí fọ́nrán ọ̀hún. Ìlú òyìnbó ò dẹrùn. Wọ́n jẹ́ àtàrà wa. Ká tó wí ká tó fọ̀. Nígbà tí wọ́n mú ìwé ilé ẹjọ́ wọ́n mú wá fọ́kùnrin ọ̀hún. Wọ́n sọ fún un pé ilé tó ti rà kíyàwó òun tó dé. Òfin ò jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ o. Àpò ilé ni kó wábì míì máa lọ. Kò sí nǹkan kan tó lẹ́tọ̀ọ́ sí gbogbo nǹkan. Ọkùnrin ti ṣiṣẹ́ fún àìmọye ọdún. Ó mọ̀ parí síbẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n kọ́kùnrin kó tó jáde lọ lóun ti wọ́n sọ fún àwọn agbófinró. níṣẹ́ wọ́n lè fún ní 24 hours àwọn náà ní dáa ó ti dáa ṣùgbọ́n kò gbọdọ̀ gbójú agan sí ìyàwó ẹ̀ olóhùn ti gbọ́ ọkùnrin yìí jáde lọ àti ó padà wá sílé ìbọn ló lọ rà ó pa ìyàwó ó dẹ̀ pe àwọn ọlọ́pàá pé òun ti pa ìyàwó òun o ẹ máa bọ̀ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí ẹ wá mú o wọ́n débẹ̀ wọ́n tó débẹ̀ tán ti rí pé òun náà para ẹ̀ ìkan tiẹ̀ wà ìyẹn ò para ẹ̀ o ìyàwó yẹn ti kú ìyẹn wà lẹ́wọ̀n tí mo yí sọ fún yìí gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n fowó ránṣẹ́ sí náà ṣe yẹ̀yẹ́ wọn tó fi ránṣẹ́ sí mami ò ṣiṣẹ́ bí akúra dádì ò ṣiṣẹ́ bí ẹni tó máa kú ó tẹ́ fìgbà kan sí ní gbèsè ayé ẹ̀ wọn ò rí díẹ̀ rò bẹ́ẹ̀ ni sà tó bá yẹ gẹ̀rẹ̀ lónìí bóyá stroke ló mú ẹ bóyá ẹ̀jẹ̀ ríru dé báyìí tàbí òun náà ṣe àìsàn kan àbí ẹ ṣe yẹ̀yẹ́ wọn á ní mo rò mú bọ̀ kí ló mú dé lórí burúkú ni ládùúgbò owó tó nìkan ní àwọn èèyàn kan gan wá díẹ̀ máa bá ẹ ṣẹ́ owó ẹ wọ́n ní èlò ló sẹ́ndì jìbí 20,000 naira 50,000 gbà mí pátápátá owó tó sẹ́ndì ìjọ kan báyìí kó ju 200,000 èlò ní 200,000 kò tó $200 àwọn ti mọ iye ẹ̀ wọ́n ti bá ẹ ṣẹ́ ṣùgbọ́n àwọn ti gbàgbé wípé mo bá ti kí láago 5 láàárọ̀ kí láago 11 alẹ́ wọn ò bá ẹ mọ ṣé bills tó ń san kí ló kàn wọ́n ikú ṣẹ̀bi wọn torí pé ẹyọ ẹnìkan ní mọ́tò 5 kò san táàsì ní Nàìjíríà ẹyọ ẹnìkan nílé bíi 5 mẹ́fà ládùúgbò kò sóń táàsì ńbẹ̀ o á dẹ̀ pé àwọn èèyàn rán níṣẹ́ níbi ìgbà yẹn mo ló ti rọ́mọ ọ̀dọ̀ tó máa rán níṣẹ́ bí you are on your own ro kìíní dáadáa o tó bá yẹ gẹ̀rẹ̀ lónìí tó kù wá mú ẹ tọ́jú ara ẹ gan mọ́mì jẹun sẹ́nu ẹ ṣe fàájì ìgbádùn tí mo ní kó bá ìsọ pé kó lọ sí kílọ̀bù àbí kó lọ máa ta tẹ́tẹ́ ẹni wá sọ pé kó bá gbádùn ìwọ̀n ọpọlọ ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú nǹkan tí mo bá ẹ sọ èmi mo wà lẹ́nu ẹ̀ yóò ẹ̀rí tí mo wá sí àrìnmáyà ní ìdí ìmọ̀ àti màá dé ní báyìí ẹlẹ́dàá ìyá mi kò sì ní dé ní láyọ̀ àti àlàáfíà gbogbo ẹni tẹ́ bá mi ṣàmì orí inú mi pẹ́ bòde o ọ̀rọ̀ Nàìjíríà ló kọ mí lóminú ìlú àwa ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ọjọ́ orí wa ó yẹ ká wà nílé ká ṣíkulẹ̀ ká wá bí ajá gbígbẹ àti gàrí ká tẹ́lẹ̀ síta kéèyàn mu gàrí kéèyàn bá já mu gàrí àti ata àti àtàlùbọ́sà bàtà àgbálùmọ̀ bá jáde kéèyàn lọ ká àgbálùmọ̀ lẹ́yìn ìkùlé ìyàbọ̀sẹ̀ ìkùlé kó ṣe ọ̀pọ̀ ẹ̀fọ́ àbí ẹ̀fọ́ gbúre àbí ṣe jẹ́ ìlú kólù àwọn ìpèrè àwọn ìgbé kéékèèké lábá iṣẹ́ kó jẹ́ ètò mẹ́mí àwọn baba ńlá wa gùn nìyẹn mo lọ ti rí ẹ̀jẹ̀ bíbá àfi bọ́gà lọ ń ṣàánú wa o inú mi dùn pé pásítọ̀ Bákàrè ń sọ̀rọ̀ ó kẹ̀ jẹ́ pé Adébóyè àtàwọn ẹ̀mẹ̀wá ẹ̀ wọ́n ti sọ chọ́ọ̀chì wọ́n ti sọ di franchise ọ̀run lẹ̀gbọ́n ti ń mu tíì báyìí bàbá wa ti ń mu tíì kò mu tíì láyé mọ́ ó mà ṣáà tí ìkú tí wọ́n kan ní tòmọ̀ tó fẹ́ kú nìyí ó mà kú bá wa dá sọ̀rọ̀ Nàìjíríà bá wa dá sí o ẹ jẹ́ ká gbọ́ nǹkan tí pásítọ̀ Bákàrè tún sọ díẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n ká tó gbọ́ yẹn kí wọ́n àwọn ìyá mi orí tó gbòòlè gbéra pẹ̀rẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ mú yàyà bí òní tì yín o orúkọ ojú kìí ti náà lẹ́ kò ní ṣẹ̀yìn nìkan o torí ọ̀jẹ̀ ó ṣèmi nìkan nínú ìrìn àjò tí mò ń rìn yìí o ẹ̀yin náà ẹ kó òkò délé ìyá mi agbára lọ́wọ́ olódùmarè ẹ̀ ní ṣubú bọ́ táyọ̀ àti gbogbo àwọn tó fẹ́ yín fẹ́ rere pátápátá ṣùgbọ́n àwọn tó bá ti ń ṣọ̀tá yín ẹ̀ ò ipò ọlọ́run lódùmarè.
Lens of my dream as a 13-year-old. Nigeria has experienced two major seasons of oil-induced economic booms, one during a military regime led by a northerner, and the other during a civilian administration led by a southerner. The first boom began in 1973 under the government of General Yakubu Gowon, a northerner. So significant was that boom that General Yakubu Gowon was credited with stating, money is not Nigeria's problem, but how to spend it. The second major oil-induced economic boom occurred during the civilian administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo, a southerner. That era gave us the highest post-Civil War gross domestic product, GDP, growth ever recorded.
That's true.
A historic debt forgiveness
That's true.
deal, a significant rise in foreign reserves from $3.7 billion to $45 billion and $25 billion saved in the excess crude account. Unfortunately, because we fail to sustainably manage our years of plenty, the pandemic and its attendant global economic crisis met us with dwindling national reserves, a staggering debt burden, and insufficient capacity to withstand the shocks. It's also uncanny, listen attentively, it's also uncanny that when each of these areas of boom ended with economic collapse, first in 1984 and then in 2015, Muhammadu Buhari had the unenviable job of presiding over the complexities of the Nigerian economy, first as a military dictator, and then as a politician and civilian president.
Okay.
This is the complexity that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has inherited and has the onerous task of redeeming. Like Pharaoh, the government of President Bola Tinubu needs redemptive solutions so that require nothing short of the genius executed in the governance model of Joseph. How would we do this? We would do this by locating our national reserves. Please pay attention. Say with me, national reserves. I can't hear you. Where are they? It is clear that reforms have become much more difficult and painful because we have taken too long to act. However, even in this current state of despair, we can still reverse the trend by adopting the Joseph model. Whereas the biblical Joseph activated futuristic reserves for future deployment, we can activate existing reserves for present deployment with the promise of future returns. Now, this does not suggest that we have sufficient financial or full reserves to meet current needs. Instead, it requires us to ask salient questions, such as, where are all the monies that are accrued to Nigeria during those years of boom? We may not have reserved them in national, regional, or local storehouses as Joseph did, but I'm persuaded that the proceeds from those years of boom did not vanish into thin air. Real wealth is not destroyed. It simply grows wings and relocates. We may have lost track of these proceeds, but I believe our seemingly lost wealth is currently domiciled in at least 3 locations. You want to know them?
Yes.
Number 1, capital flight destinations. Number 2, capitalists in our nation. And number 3, corrupt public officials. The first reserve includes cross-border accounts and investment destinations fed by capital flight in the form of illicit financial flows, tax evasion, and the repatriation of funds by foreign investors who have lost confidence in the Nigerian economy. A 2021 report by the Political Economy Research Institute estimates that Nigeria has lost around $467 billion to capital flight from 1970 to 2018 alone.
Wow.
That's over 12 times our current reserves of 38 billion, and in today's naira value, it will amount to over 745 trillion naira, or over 13 times the current budget of 54.99 trillion. The second reserves are the capitalists who benefited from past errors. This can be seen from a 2024 report by Oxfam that the combined wealth of Nigeria's 5 richest men could end extreme poverty at a national level, even as the amount of money that the richest Nigerian man can earn annually from his wealth is sufficient to lift 2 million people out of poverty for 1 year.
That's
It
crazy.
is commendable that since the time of that report, some of these wealthy Nigerians have invested significantly in the Nigerian economy. This address aims to show how we can attract more of such investments in ways that accelerate economic recovery, boost growth, and create opportunities for every Nigerian. The third reserve, where the resources that are accrued from our boom years have been domiciled, are the corrupt officials who have appropriated our commonwealth. According to the same Oxfam report, between 1960 and 2005, about $20 trillion was stolen from the Nigerian treasury by public office holders. This amount is larger than the GDP of United States in 2012, about $18 trillion. It's also over 700 times our current reserves. Little wonder Nigeria is where it is today. So how do we open up our national reserves? You like to know? Having identified 3 reserves, including capital flight destinations, capitalists, and the corrupt, I believe that this moment of national crisis presents a rare opportunity for a strategic deployment of this accumulated wealth. Although, unlike Joseph, we fail to strategically and sustainably accumulate our national, regional, and local reserves for the broader public good, I believe these 3 reserves can be opened up through an emergency reset of our polity inspired by his governance model. As Joseph did in a time of crisis, we must open up these 3 reserves in service of the people. Now, please listen attentively. Let me state, however, that I'm not advocating for the nationalization and redistribution of private wealth. Far from it. That will only set us back. While illicitly accumulated wealth can be taken over by the state under due process of law, the right to legitimate private property is sacrosanct and must not be violated. Instead, I propose innovative financing rooted in a structural reset. Such a structural reset must be founded on key principles that I have highlighted on previous occasions, most recently at the University of Lagos Business School, ULBS, including the fact that national wealth can be mobilized through a compelling national vision and a bankable national business model to achieve remarkable progress. The lens of my dream as a 13-year-old. Nigeria has experienced 2 major seasons of oil-induced economic booms, one during a military regime, led by a northerner, and the other during a civilian administration led by a southerner. The first boom began in 1973 under the government of General Yakubu Gowon, a northerner. So significant was that boom that General Yakubu Gowon was credited.
Wasteful generations. Those of you that Pa Oluwo suffered himself to build future and give us an education, that you are now become tormentator, destroying the unborn generation's life. You will pay. Ikú oró lórí igi àgbélébùú máa jẹ́ kẹ́ ẹ sán. Ẹ lè escape ẹ̀ sà. Ẹ̀yin náà lẹ sọ mí nù sílùú òyìnbó báyìí. Ẹ rí bí mo ṣe rù sórí. Ẹ lè lọ scot free. Gbogbo àwọn tó kó ọrọ̀ jẹ, tán kó kan jọ, tán kó jẹ, tán kó lè jẹ, tán kó lè jẹ lọ́jọ́ sí, níbo náà wà? Ẹ fẹnu fẹ́ra bí abẹ̀bẹ̀. Agbára Ọlọ́run. Kì í ṣe pé àtúbọ̀tán á dà, ilẹ̀ á dà, àdàbí á dà. Àdàbí tọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ nínú yóò bá kówó jẹ lóko. Àdàbí tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá gbádùn ìlú yẹn nígbà tó dáa lóko. Irú Buhari olórí burúkú má ṣàǹfààní yẹn. Tọ́run ẹ̀ dàbí ọrùn ìgomọgí yẹn. Ìgbà tó jẹ́ military, òun ló transtigate first democracy ta ní Nàìjíríà. Ẹni tó yẹ kó wà lẹ́wọ̀n ó tún padà wá tó wá ṣe president, ẹ pé system ìlú yẹn ò dáa. A dẹ̀ ń bá eléyìí tó wà ńbẹ̀ ìsúnsìn kan devolve power. Ẹ̀ ń ṣèfẹ́ nù yín. Ẹgbẹ́ tó gan sọ, ọ̀gá ọlọ́pàá ó sọ. Omi ti pọ̀jọ kà lọ, kì í ṣe pé ẹgbẹ́ mi ojú tó yọ bọ́ ọ̀fọ̀, kò ń ṣe pé kò try. Ẹ máa wo àwọn ìgbésẹ̀ tó ń gbé ni. Ẹ máa wo nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní NNPC lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí. Subsidy ti wà ńbẹ̀ ti pẹ́ tó yẹ kán ti yọ. Ẹ wo ọ̀rọ̀ tax reform. Ẹ mọyé nǹkan, ṣùgbọ́n kò ní yọ. Ẹ wo eléyìí tó sọ pé òun bàbá whatever, bóyá bàbá àbáyé, bóyá
yóò purọ́ ni. Àwọn kan ní kó gbẹnu ẹ̀ sọ́hùn. Ẹ wo bí ṣe rí ẹ̀ láìkótọ́ ẹ̀yin Yorùbá. Kò purọ́ náà. Tí ò bá sí bẹ́ẹ̀, ó jọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹ rí nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí. Kò rí bẹ́ẹ̀, kò jọ bẹ́ẹ̀, ó jọ bẹ́ẹ̀, kò rí bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹ rí nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí ni. Mò ń bọ̀, jẹ́ kí n fi kinní kan hàn wá.
And of course, we will try more to cultivate that culture in our people, while at the same time bringing the Fulanis in one fold and try to arrest their traditional practice of moving from one place to the other. And that is very big, an uphill task. But I think we can communicate with them more, because to them they don't have borders from Cameroon to Nigeria.
But that's the thing, Your Excellency. How do we ensure that those who will be participating in this federal government largely funded program will be Nigerians?
In terms of the funding?
No, in terms of the
operations.
Operations. You said to bring in the Fulanis together. We have Fulanis from other
the
countries
issue
as well.
of misconception, I see there is a lot of mistrust and misconception with regards to the Fulani man. The Fulani man is a global or an African person. He moves from the Gambia, from Senegal, and his nationality is just a Fulani man. And as a person, I may have my relations in the Cameroon, but they are also Fulani men. I have relations because from the maternal side, I'm a Fulani man. And that is why we want to educate people. A Fulani man sees himself as a Bayelsan, as somebody coming from the Niger Delta, because he speaks the Niger Delta language, which you and I don't. And of course, we would have to just take this as part of our own heritage, something that is African, and that we cannot just close the border and say the Fulani man is just a Nigerian or this. No. In most cases, the crises are precipitated by those outside Nigeria. When there is a reprisal, it is not the Fulani man within Nigeria that causes it. It is that culture of getting revenge, which is embedded in the
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Nous remercions Dieu le Tout-Puissant et nous prions sur le prophète Mohammed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes...
Remember, this Boko Haram issue started since 2012. Yeah. And I was in the military intelligence that time. We arrested those people. It is my organization that actually conducts interrogation and interview. They mention names. I can't come on air and start mentioning names of people that are presently in government now that I know. Presently in government. That the boys that we arrested mentioned. Some of them are governors now. Some of them are in the Senate. Some of them are in Asu Rock. The intention is to Islamize Nigeria and practice Sharia. And it doesn't matter if some people die. It doesn't matter if you're embarrassed. It doesn't matter if our economy has degenerated. Look at the interest rate. Look at the inflation rate. Look at the debt profile of Nigeria. They don't care. As long as at the end, Quran is at the sea. So some people in this country have this mindset. Remember, this Boko Haram issue started since 2012. Yeah. And I was in the military intelligence that time. We arrested those people. It is my organization that actually conducts interrogation and interview. They mention names. I can't come on air and start mentioning names of people that are presently in government now that I know. Presently in government. That the boys that we arrested mentioned. Some of them are governors now. Some of them are in the Senate. Some of them are in Asu Rock. The intention is to Islamize Nigeria and practice Sharia. And it doesn't matter if some people die. It doesn't matter if you're embarrassed. It doesn't matter if our economy has degenerated. Look at the interest rate. Look at the inflation rate. Look at the debt profile of Nigeria. They don't care. As long as at the end, Quran is at the sea. So some people in this country have this mindset. Remember, this Boko Haram issue started since 2012. Yeah. And I was in the military intelligence that time. We arrested those people. It is my organization that actually conducts interrogation and interview. They mention names. I can't come on air and start mentioning names of people that are presently in government now that I know. Presently in government. That the boys that we arrested mentioned. Some of them are governors now. Some of them are in the Senate. Some of them are in Asu Rock. The intention is to Islamize Nigeria and practice Sharia. And it doesn't matter if some people die. It doesn't matter if you're embarrassed. It doesn't matter if our economy has degenerated. Look at the interest rate. Look at the inflation rate. Look at the...
So, ìtú tí àwọn Fúlàní ń pa kẹ́gbọ́n mi ojú tó yọbọ́ tí ò fọ́ tó bá kú òun bẹ́ẹ̀ yóò bá jẹ páṣápàṣá ìyà. Ṣùgbọ́n ọba tó jẹ́ tí gbẹ́ dìgboro orúkọ ẹ̀ ò lè parẹ́. Èyí tó dẹ̀ tún jẹ tí gboro náà tún dìgbẹ́ orúkọ ẹ̀ ò ní parẹ́ o. Ó kàn ní grace olórí ọ̀fẹ́ tó fi wà ń bẹ̀ ni báyìí ṣe ń tó ló ṣe hope 93 kí ni ìtumọ̀ ẹ̀? Gbogbo ẹ̀ ti dàrú. Ọ̀nà àbáyọ kan ṣoṣo náà nìyẹn, devolution of power. Kálukú develop space ẹ̀. Ó dẹ̀ mọ̀ nígbà ayé Buhari ọmọ school wọ́n máa ń kó wọn ní 100 millions. Buhari ńgbà tó kọ́kọ́ débẹ̀ a ò rí rárá almost 1 year. Tinubu lọ lé kò tí pọ́sẹ̀ mẹ́ta wọ́n para wọn dànù, wọ́n bọ́ǹbù ara wọn bọ́n ṣe bàjọba Jonathan jẹ́ gbogbo system yẹn gbogbo òjé yẹn la mọ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹni abáwí ọba jẹ́ ó gbọ́, ajá tó máa sọnù òun lọ̀rọ̀ administration tó wà ń ta ẹ̀. Most of you gbogbo ní Yorùbá ni yín náà. Kátẹ́tẹ́ ń bú Buhari fún un náà ni ẹ̀gbọ́n Tinubu ṣe. Tí Fúlàní bá wá débẹ̀ ń sìn kú wa. Nígbà tí Buhari wà ńbẹ̀, Katsina nìkan 30 nílùú ẹ̀ 30. Nínú àwọn yóò yàn ń lu ẹ̀ ń pariwo ẹ̀ ń ké. So nepotism ti wá ń lu ẹ̀ kó rẹ̀ lè kú. The best thing ni pé ká devolve power. Ẹgbẹ́ tó kù sọ ó ní kán decentralize police. Ṣé wọ́n tún fẹ́ sọ ju bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn lọ ni? Ẹ wo nígbà ayé Buhari àwọn obìnrin kan tó ń báyàwó sùn bọ́mọ sùn bọ́kọ sùn lójú ara wọn. Ẹ jẹ́ ká gbọ́ lẹ́nu obìnrin náà.
The driver felt the wagon's tires rupture and decided to park the car with the hope of changing the tires. It was like a film. In a GC, motley crowd of armed men in military uniform came out of the bush. They fired at the boot of the car. Ahead of us, 5 of them came out of the bush. Another 2 came from the rear. My daughter screamed, "Mommy, Daddy, what's going on?" There was no time to say a word. They marched us through into the bush, firing into the sky. They hit me on my chest, hit my daughter on her head. Blood oozed. At this time, it was better to kill me. I shouted at one of the armed men. His response was hell. He went straight for my private part, tore my dress with his gun. The others ripped my dresses. I was left with my undies. My husband and my daughter started crying. 2 of them dug their teeth into my breasts. While attending a secondary school in Adamawa, I had lived with some Fulani, so I understood a few Fulani words. I started pleading, at least for my daughter. To my shock, at gunpoint, they removed the dress of my little girl. One of them carried her on his head as my baby struggled, shouting, "Daddy, Mommy, what's going on? Help me!" I could not help myself. We marched for 9 hours. I was half naked. My daughter was totally naked. Her tears was like a stream of blood on her cheeks. Our phones had been seized. We ended up in an ungoverned region in the thick of the forest. We met a well-organized group. There were some kidnapped victims. I saw 2 women, 2 ladies and 3 men. There were some people with their legs chained to trees. They were as if half dead. We were separated. I was separated from my husband. My daughter was taken away. I only heard her screaming intermittently. I did not know what they were doing to her. These men, now about 2 dozen, had a full kitchen. They had a huge camp and a traditional medical team. How can they say they don't know where these people are? How can they say that? But the camps appeared isolated from each other. We heard noises afar, indicating it might be nuclear settlements of camps. Right in my presence, I saw them pack the remains of a woman. They took her and buried her a few meters away from us. She had tribal marks. I cannot describe the agony of 6 days in captivity in this little piece. I cannot talk about how they asked my husband to choose between myself being raped or his daughter being raped. My husband broke down in uncontrollable tears. One of them hit him saying, Yoruba bastard, you they cry, idiot. They now gave him an option that he should be raped by one homosexual among them. My husband, a devout Muslim. My husband is a devout Muslim. He told them that homosexual and rape of any kind was against Islam. They hit him with the butt of AK-47. What do you know about Islam? You can imagine, you are being asked to choose between being raped by a homosexual, your daughter just 9 years old, or your wife being raped. They gave the fourth option. If you fail to choose one, we would rape your daughter, rape you, the man, and rape me, the wife. I made myself the sacrificial lamb. My husband begged, saying they should name any price. One of them asked him to bend down. 3 beastly criminals sat on his back, jumping until he was too weak to stand.
Kila tu wan so kila nwa. Evoke this power.
I was not allowed to put on any additional clothes. Imagine they rape you all night and they stop you from putting on any clothes for 24 hours. The rain fell once. I became a relic at a sexual museum for the armed men who in turn addressed me and asked questions about my financial standing. New Fulani men joined the camp. They organized military training for the new Fulani men that came.
Imagine.
Teaching them how to shoot and walk through circles of glowing fire. They were not released until after 6 days. We were not released until after 6 days. We had to walk the same zigzag journey back to the main road. Our eyes blindfolded. During the negotiation to pay, they said the money was not for them alone, that they had to settle those who sent them. For me, I see a thriving organized crime supported by powerful political interests. Now, I do not think we were released to freedom after paying a whopping 8 million naira. I do not think we can ever be free. We can never be free from the anguish, the psychological trauma, the nightmares we suffered, the occasional fits of my daughter, her waking up at night behaving strangely, her asking the same question over and over, Mommy, why? And I do not have an answer. In my life, I have never passed through a torture chamber like this. I do not think any society should let this happen. I do not know the fate of those we met and about 7 other people brought during the 6 days we were in captivity. What I saw was a nation that has collapsed, but pretends she lives. A people on life support. Crime is not restricted to Fulani people alone. We have Yoruba criminals, but I don't think Yoruba criminals are this beastly. These elements are savages. I can't imagine Yoruba thieves going to Sokoto or Meduguri to kidnap Fulani people and keep them in their own bushes. It gives me mental torture that this is happening, and some people are even trying to justify or look for excuses. Well, as a devout Muslim,
Mo rántí ní part 2 message bóyá part 1 ni woman yìí kúnlẹ̀ tó ń bẹ Buhari gbà yẹn ni, tó ń bẹ pé you are a father of the nation, tó ń bẹ àwítán ẹni Tinubu ó lọ ọ̀sẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ kò tí pọ̀ṣù kan Buhari lọ lórí ní almost 1 year tó kù. The system is not working. Gbàgbé pé ẹnìkan ní president, ẹnìkan lòun ló kan, ẹnìkan ní òun kíní kan, ẹnìkan lòun lè ṣe, ẹnìkan ní tóun bá jẹ́ kó govern, wọn á make governorable fún Jonathan náà ní òun. kíní kan conference ọ̀dẹ̀ yẹn ọ̀dẹ̀ olókùnrin ajẹ́ kó sáàyè kó regret Ọbásanjọ́ náà bí the third time gbogbo yamayama báyìí ẹ wo ìlú Gowon àwọn bẹ̀rẹ̀ náà ti pa wọ́n tọ̀fọ̀tọ̀ Nemesis ojú ẹ̀ wá rí bí lọ́jọ́ alẹ́ Gowon sọ fún ẹ kí ó ní kì í ṣe owó ní problem Nàìjíríà ó ní àti iná imagine agbára mọ́mẹ́rò sẹ́lẹ̀ ọ̀kẹ́ ṣe nǹkan yẹ kẹ́ ẹ ṣáà bẹ́ ìlú tó tóbi táwọn ní kí Nàìjíríà gbé bọ̀ tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá default power báwo lè fẹ́ ṣe ìfúgà Amẹ́ríkà gan default power wọn kò jáde ẹ wo dàbọ̀.